Rudradeb Mitra, founder, chairman, and CEO of Omdena. Building his seventh startup, Omdena, a bottom-up global collaborative platform for building AI solutions in 3 years, executed 165 or more projects with impact organizations and startups from 40 countries involving 5,000 and more AI engineers and data scientists from 100 countries. Omdena has 65 local chapters across 5 continents, named Top 10 Inspiring CEOs in 2020 by Analytics Insights. Invited speaker, including Facebook, Intel, Google, UN, BNP, and more. Why AI? What is this thing that interested you more in AI?
So when I started AI, at that time AI was not that big, there was no big buzz, but I loved mathematics always. And AI at that time, and even now, is a lot into mathematics. So it was natural for me, progression, to go into understand AI algorithms, because I love mathematics. I had the passion of doing mathematics, and I was a computer science engineer too. So it just went to AI. And at the time, AI algorithms was a lot around solving puzzles, solving chess programs, planning algorithms. So, and that fascinated me in general too. So that way I went to AI. But I'll start with 5 stories or 5 projects that we did in 5 continents around the world. Not simple problems that we solved in 5 different continents. I'm sorry, the slides is a bit... The first one is we worked with UNICEF, a GIGA project, and the goal of that UNICEF GIGA project is to give every school access to internet. And one of the places they are focusing on is Sudan. And so they came to us and said, look, we need to give access to schools, internet, but we don't know where the schools are. Often the schools are in remote parts of the country. It's a vast country. So can you help us identify those schools, first of all? And then we can see how can we go and give them access to internet. So what we did is we started by looking at the satellite images. We trained a model which could detect schools through satellite images. You can see the picture here, and you can see there's a simple pattern how the schools look like. So the model was able to predict or identify the school among all the different buildings in that region. Same here. Now, it's very interesting because now they can actually say, okay, there are the schools in these parts of Sudan. Now we can go back and go and give access to internet to those schools, or even other benefits to those schools. Of course, the model was not able to always predict, but some of the time it was giving an accuracy of 0.8 or 0.9. That's one example that we worked in Sudan to help give access to internet. The second project we did is another continent, in Brazil. And as you know, forest fire is a big problem in Brazil. So what we did, that there was a company who have cameras and who said, can you help us identify forest fire? So this was one of the images that they provided us. And it's very interesting because we need to understand the difference between a forest fire and a fog and a cloud. We trained the model, and the model was able to detect the fire, the regions. What it does actually, it reduces the time for the firefighters or the authorities to go and fight the fire. Normally, it sometimes takes even days, because there is no human standing there and looking at the fire all the time. But now with the camera, it's easy to go and find that fire. And I show you some more pictures here that how the machine was trained. So you can see that in some of the cases, the machine was, for example, here, was able to not detect the difference between a cloud and smoke. In some of the cases, it was not able to detect. But overall, we got over 90% accuracy or 95% accuracy in detecting forest fire.
Tell me about Omdena.
So, interesting, I will start with the name, because many people ask me why the name, what's the name about? And the honest answer is me and my partner, when we built the name, we were not looking for any meaning. We just wanted a 6 letters, which is easy to pronounce in a way, which has a .com available, which has a vowel too, because it's easy to pronounce, and it came as Omdena. That's it. Few months later, when I was, I don't remember, maybe in the shower, it suddenly struck that it has beautiful meaning. And Omdena can be broken down into 2 parts. Om, O-M, which is perhaps many of you know, comes from the Sanskrit or the yoga, which is basically means the sound of the universe, which is unification. Dena in Sanskrit, also in Hindi, means to give. So if you combine them, Omdena, it actually means that it's a place where it unifies people together, and the purpose is to give back.
Wow.
And that was not the meaning that I was trying to find out, but it happened a few months later that I found out, oh, that's a beautiful meaning. The third work we did in another continent, India, is the World Resource Institute. It's one of the biggest NGO in the world. They came to us and said, hey, we want to understand what causes land conflicts. Can you help us understand the land conflicts? There is no database around the world, including in India, that what causes land conflicts. So what we did is we analyzed newspaper articles, not only in English, in all different languages, and try to understand who are the actors, who are the action, what's the number. And we ended up creating a database of all the land conflicts that happened over the last 10 to 15 years. Why is that very important? Because then the government can know why land conflicts are happening, where they are happening. Then we connected those land conflicts with policies in those parts of the world. But what are the policies that causes those land conflicts? And we ended up creating a map which was able to list out all the land conflicts that were happening, why they were happening, and what are the policies associated with those land conflicts.
What does Omdena do?
We are a platform that develops AI for good through global collaboration. So initially that's how it started the first 2 years. And a lot of people were part of it. But then over the time I realized that what is happening, and again this comes from the point of me being an observer more, spirituality aspect, rather than trying to drive something. I saw a lot of people coming back to us and said, thanks to Omdena, I got jobs. I didn't have those opportunities before. Because a lot of people now can go and demonstrate their skills that, I did this project with UNICEF or UNHCR or this company, and they get jobs. They started sending me messages. Even I remember a father of one of the kids actually sent a video, and we even have the recording. He said that thanks to Omdena that my son finally got a job, and he was not able to get a job for 6 to 8 months. So what I then saw that Omdena is not only building AI for good, it also ended up being a skill development platform. People are coming together, they're developing the skills, growing themselves up, learning from each other. 40% of Omdena collaborators are females. That's a huge number in any tech related. Why? Because a lot of females, they do not get these opportunities because of the biases that we have in the society, especially in tech related roles. Not only that, and many of them actually said that they could overcome, they actually wrote an article about it and they made a webinar about it, how Omdena helped them get over imposter syndrome. I didn't ask them anything. They said, hey, let us tell about to other people that this, because when you're working in a collaborative environment, helping each other, you are getting over your insecurities. And that was beautiful. And we also saw most people in Omdena are not actually in their early 20s. They're actually in their 30s and some 40s, even 60s. Why so? Because a lot of people are changing their careers. They have like 10, 15 years of experience in a given sector. Even we had doctors and professors. For them, it's very difficult to switch jobs to a new field. No one wants to give them the opportunities because, again, the society, unfortunately, is not only kind of sexist, but also ageist.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of people, they come in. And I had this guy, and he from Australia, he said at 42 years old and with 2 children, I would have never thought I can switch my career, become a data scientist, and then he actually now giving courses in Coursera. And he wrote an article also about how Omdena helped him switch his career from that to there.
Impact his life.
And impact his life. So it became not just a place where people are solving social problems. It became a place where people are developing their careers, switching their careers, getting new opportunities. And then from there onwards, we of course then started something called local chapters. People said, hey, why don't we open something in our local community? Because we get around 1,000 applicants every month. It's interesting that you gave this example of the policing. So I'll come back to that. This is something we've worked in Chicago. It's an NGO which works with FBI and came to us and said, can you help us predict gang violence? And I'll touch upon that ugly part of that too. So gangs do not use normal language. They don't actually, especially when they're using Twitter, they don't actually use real language. They're using some sign language, their own language. So first of all, we had to build a machine that understands what they're talking about. And unlike, we were not trying to build predictive model, what we were trying to see if there is a correlation between actual violence and the gangs actually using the Twitter and kind of fighting with each other. So it was not that we were trying to build a model, we were just trying to analyze what happens. And I would also disagree that actually humans have a huge patterns. We actually have patterns in almost everything that we do. And we saw that. We actually saw that when there was a mention of a gun in a tweet, an actual crime happening. Is there any correlation? And we saw that in the same day, when someone is using a gun in a tweet, and the actual violence, there is no correlation. Within the next day shift, there is no correlation. But with the 2-day shift, there was a clear correlation. What does that mean? That means that gangs were actually using the Twitter to threat each other, and then in 2 days, the actual violence was happening. And it's not that we are predicting the model, we're just analyzing the data and seeing whether this happens or not. And that's hugely useful for police to know, okay, there's a potential to happen a gang violence. And then what we did is we understand who are the people who could actually, and there's something called network effect, I'm not going into details, but we didn't try to understand who are the people who could potentially fight with each other. So using this technology, the police can actually know, by just analyzing Twitter, that there's a high possibility of certain gangs fighting with each other. So then they can increase the policing in those regions. And something similar we did also in Somalia, which I don't have the presentation, is basically looking at relation between climate anomalies and conflicts. And we saw that there was a clear correlation between when a climate anomaly, like a drought, displacements, and conflicts happening within a gap of a month or two, which we worked for the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. And the fifth story that I want to talk about is detecting fake news, which you all kind of experience. And there was a company who says, okay, can you help us detect fake news? So we were looking at the different news articles. We were trying to give an overall score. And we tried to score them on the bias. I cannot read it, unfortunately. It's here. Reliable information, the hate speech. And we built simple tool that will let people know that there's a possibility of this article being biased or have certain level of fake news. Again, it's not a machine that's deciding, it's a humans providing the information. Now, just to go back and just to tell about what I have been doing or what we have been doing over the last 3 years. In last 3 years since we started this company, we have run over 165 projects in 56 countries. And these are the places where we have run the projects all over the world. Of course, I don't have the time to go in details. There are over 5,000 people from 103 countries who have been part of these projects. Currently, we have 65 chapters, and the 45th country is Kosovo, why am I here, and we're going to open a new chapter here.
Omdena in Kosovo, that sparked me a bit. Let's talk about this. What is that? What is your plan?
So when I was first got the invitation to come to Kosovo, I have never been here before. I've been in Balkans, but never been to Kosovo. And then various discussions, because we have these local chapters, then they said, hey, why don't you come and discuss about potentially opening a local chapter here? Mm-hmm. So then the AI Kosovo Bart, he reached out and we had a discussion and we thought, that's a very good idea to open a local chapter here because I see there's a huge potential here. It's a huge youth population. If I'm not wrong, the 50% of the population is youth still. And all that they might need is a little bit of push and the support to get into this field, because I think the people here are still not that much involved in the AI. So what we would like to do is to provide an opportunity for people to get access to the knowledge, to providing them free access to courses, and then open a local chapter where they could start solving interesting problems in their local community themselves with the help of the global community. and then potentially from there onwards they can move on and get jobs and new opportunities in their life. So that's what I want to do. And I see this, I think that the future of AI will not be built in Silicon Valley or in MIT. I think that truly believe the future of AI will be built by communities around the world. In fact, we have just a partnership started a month ago with government of Bhutan. I don't know if Bhutan is a small hill country in the Himalayas, and they reached out to me and they say, hey, we want to also educate our citizens in Bhutan. So we started a 6 months program where we start educating the people there and then opening a local chapter, building solutions for Bhutanese in the Bhutan by the people in Bhutan through the support of the global community. So I want to apply the same model here also.
I see that you value very much the community.
Absolutely.
You see as a value tool in building.
Not only value, it's an absolute necessary tool.
Okay.
But because once we rely on the community to build solutions, to launch, to build startups, they are sustainable because we will not build products that the people do not want. People will naturally trust those solutions because it's built by the people themselves. But the biggest problem now is either you look at the startup world or the AI world, is there is a kind of mistrust in what is being built.
Why?
Because people do not trust the big companies, what they're building. It's not transparent to them. They don't know what is being there. And also recent events in different parts, as you know, made the trust even lower. Mm-hmm. So if people themselves come together and build it from all over the world, the trust would be naturally. Mm-hmm. And also I believe that will also create more ethical solutions, because at the end, why AI is not ethical is because there are biases in the data. Now, when there is a diverse group of people from different age group, background, culture come together, they will be able to understand and identify the biases in the data a lot faster. And that will also make AI solutions which are more ethical.
And to you, this is a concern, right?
Absolutely. I think that we have to be very careful that going forward, AI is going to be used everywhere. And that's, we know, it's not a yes or no. We are already using AI. It's from simple things like how the feeds in our social media come from, right? So a simple example is the feeds that we see in our social media is based on our past likes and patterns. And what it does, it creates us also more and more into, narrow thought, because we keep on reinforcing our biases. And it's very important that every aspect of our life is going to be affected by AI. We need to know that these algorithms are not biased, because otherwise it will be reinforced more and more in our society, and it will make us more and more divided. So absolutely, it's very, very important because we are using that on a day-to-day basis. So I completely believe that we need to be very careful going forward and aware of those algorithms. And there's a recent, I don't know if it's a law yet or proposal in the EU that they said that for example, in the social media, if you are giving people algorithms which is based on showing why they are getting a feed, they need to know why they're giving a particular recommendation. And I think that's valuable because, if it's, then I know that this is in my past behavior is giving me this recommendation. Then I might be more aware that this is just my reinforcing my bias again. Because otherwise we just are not used to hearing other opinions. We need to get more open up rather than keep on listening to the same feed that we get. So there are a lot of things that we need to really be aware of when we are kind of, on a day-to-day basis getting access to this, using these algorithms.
But the more important thing is that we, the people, cannot rely on governments and corporations to build our future. And we need to be really aware of that. We have the access, we have the technology, we have the knowledge. Why do we rely on governments and big companies to build those technologies and for us? Why don't we build the solutions? And I have proven over the last 3 years that you could actually do that. People can come together, collaborate, and build those solutions. So before I end, I will tell you one of my favorite person whom I really like is Jack Ma, and he said something which is very, very interesting. He said that in the late 1990s, when the internet came, almost every expert, what they said will happen, never happened, and what they didn't say actually happened. Now, why is that relevant? It's because, we the people are going to build the future. It's not, no one else is building the future. So we have to build our own future. So if we are afraid of something, let's go and build that future ourselves. And we have the means and the opportunity more than ever we ever had that. So all I'm saying is, let's work together, use the AI and make a better place for all of us. Yeah, thanks a lot.
We have time for we have time for a few questions, if we have in the audience. Yes, please.
Thank you for the talk. So you mentioned a lot of projects that you've had, and you use AI to interpret data and find useful correlations that your client might use. But correlation is not always causation, and you mentioned in the end of your talk that AI can make mistakes. I just want to know, in the practical sense, between you and your clients, if your work reaches an incorrect conclusion, who takes responsibility, you or the client?
So there is a difference between, exactly, the causation and correlation are two different things. So we never say, and that's very important for everyone to understand, there's a correlation, not a causation. Now, there is absolutely important that human decision making should not be replaced by our machines. What should be done, that machines should give an indication that there's a high probability of something happening. So once you at least know there is a high probability of something happening, you can take preventive measures. You are not relying on the machines to do those things. So, that's the whole point. So it's always a correlations, and there's a high correlation can be wrong or right, but at least there's a high probability of being right.
What is your experience with DOKU.TECH? You've been here for 2 days. You've seen young people, and you met them, I believe. And tell me more about this experience here in this campus.
So, first of all, when I heard about DOKU.TECH and when Teresa told her journey of, coming here in 2006, opening an internet provider, I was fascinated by the story. And then opening a foundation, helping the people here, I thought that's super interesting. And I love that idea. So I thought, okay. And then when I was here, and through DOKU.TECH, I met the local people. What I realized, and my talk yesterday, and there was a lot of questions, and then afterwards I have another hour or so discussions, I realized people here are very passionate about AI. They want to learn, like youth all over the world. So it's no different than any other place in the world. And then to me, it was very encouraging to talk to these people. Because it again kind of shows that this huge opportunity, and to bring those people together through DOKU.TECH is really important, because it brings them come to one place where they can get access to that knowledge, that they start believing, yes, they can do that. The story that I said you while I was in Cambridge, that I met the Twitter and LinkedIn co-founder, and that made me believe that if they can do it, I can do it too. And I think that's very important, actually. Although many people may not understand the relevance, but that was very important in my life. And I think that conferences like DOKU.TECH, especially in places like Kosovo, where may not everyone believe that they can do things, which brings people from outside the world, engages the local communities, and makes them believe that they can do that too, is actually very, very important.